Happy Friday and happy Groundhog Day. Supposedly the groundhog didn't see his shadow. And they said that springtime, well, next month on the calendar, spring is coming, hopefully. And but they're saying that it's going to be a short turnaround. I believe it's going to be 50s next week. So let's just enjoy the sunshine and the mild weather, whatever is the temperature. But anyway, happy Friday. And it's time to be inspired once again with some of our African American men. Yes, every day we celebrate Black History. Chuck D is our next person that we'll read about as far as our leaders. He was born in 1960. He's still alive, so he's 64? Depends when his birthday. He'll be 64 this year. Born in Carlton Ridenour. Oh, that's his name. Carlton Ridenour. Didn't know that. Chuck D. Chuck always had a booming voice. When he was growing up on Long Island near New York City, his parents enrolled him in a summer course run by former members of the Black Panther Party. Didn't know that. A militant political group formed in the 1960s that encouraged Black pride. His parents wanted him to learn about his history and use his voice to uplift his people. But at that time, he was more interested in bossing around his younger siblings and practicing to be a sportscaster. How about that? Didn't know that. When Chuck heard a new type of music from the Bronx called rap, he fell in love with it. It would be a while, though, before he combined his voice and his understanding of history and this music. Chuck studied graphic design in college and created flyers for local hip-hop shows while DJing with his friends at his school's radio station. When a producer wanted to sign him up to Def Jam Records, Chuck thought he was too old, but his age, 26, meant he had a different perspective from the younger rappers coming up. Eventually, he was convinced, and with his radio show buddies, formed the group Public Enemy. Chuck saw rap as a way to talk about and influence the Black community. He called rap Black America's TV station. He rapped about racism, politics, culture, and the importance of unity and uplift. At first, Public Enemy had a hard time breaking out. Their lyrics were deemed too political to be played on the radio at a time when you couldn't find success without radio play. But when popular director Spike Lee featured their song Fight the Power in the movie Do the Right Thing. Do you remember what year? Do the Right Thing? And of course, Spike Lee would hang around this film festival every year. But when was Do the Right Thing produced or displayed in the world? Yes, 1989. Yeah, can you believe it that far? What's that, 35 years ago? Oh my goodness, that's a long time ago. The audience grew. In 2030, Public Enemy was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, one of only a handful of rap and hip-hop inductees. Chuck's intelligence and dedication to political and social change have made him a statesman for hip-hop. As both an activist and artist, or as he called himself, a raptivist, and his booming voice will be heard for generations to come. Chuck D. That was pretty interesting, right? Can you believe it? 35 years ago since Do the Right Thing. Time has passed. And another hero. This man was a comic book author and publisher, Dwayne McDuffie. He was born in 1962 and passed in 2011. Is that 59 years? Yes. Excuse me. As a kid, Dwayne loved two things more than anything else: science and science fiction. He entered as many science fairs as possible and read all the comic books he could get his hands on. He always dreamed of one day bringing his passions together to become an astronaut But in high school, something happened that led him down another path. Just for fun, Dwayne shot a silly film about Batman. Everyone loved it, and Dwayne started to think he could create stories for a living. He graduated from the University of Michigan, a great school, with a master's degree in physics. What? But in 1983, he moved to New York City to attend film school. From science to film. One day, a friend told him about a job at Marvel Comics working on superhero trading cards. Dwayne quickly moved up the ranks at Marvel, writing for such characters as Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, and She-Hulk, while creating his own comic called Damage Control. Interesting. While working in the comic industry, Dwayne noticed that there weren't a lot of characters of color, and the ones he did see didn't seem authentic. Dwayne decided to help make a change. In 1993, Dwayne and other Black comic creators formed Milestone Media. There they could publish their own comics with a range of characters to represent their cultures. They told stories rooted in the issues of the day, racism, violence, poverty, and mixed them with comic book favorites, shape-shifting aliens and giant mutants. Milestone eventually became the most successfully minority-owned comic publisher ever. To its comic Static Shock was a huge success and got to its own animated television series with Dwayne as a writer and producer. He was so good that he was invited to write for other animated shows such as Justice League Unlimited and Teen Titans. Yeah, I remember that. Dwayne never forgot his animated shows such as Justice League Unlimited and Teen Titans. He never forgot his roots. In other words, he remembered his roots and returned to comics to write for the Justice League and Fantastic Four. Dwayne was a true champion for a more inclusive comic book landscape, and through it all, he entertained and enlightened audiences with fantasy and humor. Isn't that wonderful? I think we could squeeze one more. Leland Melvin, he was an astronaut. I'm not sure if he's still alive. He didn't grow up wanting to be an astronaut. He watched the moon landing on TV with his family, but didn't see anyone who looked like him. So he never even considered wanting that for himself. He did not grow up wanting to be like Arthur Ashe, the star athlete who had trained 5 blocks from where Leland grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. Around the time he started playing sports, he got his first chemistry set and accidentally burned a hole in the carpet. He was amazed at how powerful chemicals could become once they were mixed. While on a football scholarship at the University of Richmond, Leland majored in chemistry. His classmates couldn't believe he was both an academic and an athlete. After graduation, he was drafted into the NFL. Unfortunately, he damaged a hamstring in training camp. It could have been the end of Leland's dreams, but his other love, science, was calling. Leland got a job at Langley Research Center while earning his master's degree at the University of Virginia. At Langley, a friend suggested that he apply to become an astronaut. He was accepted on his first try. He went into training, and again, he was injured. He was in the neutral buoyancy lab, a big pool of water meant to simulate the feeling of space, when he suffered ear damage that left him partially deaf and unfit for space flight. That didn't make him any less of an astronaut. For several years, he worked at the Johnson Space Center in Houston and visited schools to talk about NASA. After some healing, he learned he had been reapproved for flight. In 2008, on the Space Shuttle Atlantis, he flew into space on the 24th mission to the International Space Station. Through football, Leland learned perseverance and teamwork, and through his career as a scientist and astronaut, he learned patience and adaptability. In his life, he found that no plan is fixed, but that hard work and dedication allowed him to reach new heights. Wasn't that wonderful? You're talking about some inspiring men who persevere no matter what happens. So what is our excuse? We just keep on going, no matter what the obstacles. The sky is the limit, outer space, and guess what? He's still alive at 59.